Well, these small businesses aren't, they're not going to stand a chance 5 years from now if they're not utilizing AI.
Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.
All righty. Welcome back to another episode of the Business After Hours podcast. Here with my co-host Jared and our guest Tyler. Hey. How are you gentlemen doing?
Living the dream.
Wonderful.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. All right.
Living the dream.
Well, Tyler, why don't we get started off? Why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I was a former Army Ranger. Spent 7 years in the Army. Was originally with the 173rd during OEF 8, which has been become pretty famous with movies like or documentaries like Restrepo and Korngal. So that was my first introduction to deployment and overseas life, which was, I didn't know a difference at the time as a private. So I asked my squad leader, like, is this what it's always like? And they're just like, no. So it was a great introduction to combat and a lot of life lessons. I mean, at that point, I was 21 years old, 22 years old, thought I knew everything under the sun, and I knew nothing at that point in time. A lot of lessons I learned from that I'm now learning that I can apply into business and in my life thereafter, that I don't think I would have learned any other way, or the skill set that I have to be resilient in business that I wouldn't have learned any other way, or even have had the ability to go through things like RASP or Ranger School thereafter, really kind of mentally set the tone for me. From there, I got out and been a contractor for the most part for over a decade now for the DoD. And the last 3.5 years, started my own business. It's called Alsaid Technologies. We originally started to give the DoD a cybersecurity reporting tool, but typical DoD, the sales process there is long and forever, and entered into the valley of death. And in that process, and being a small business of 3 people, we had to bootstrap everything. So we had to leverage a lot of technology to help us develop a tool. So we learned a lot of skills and knowledge about how to build AI and bots and how to leverage them and become efficient in our coding capabilities. And now we're moving into we made a pretty big pivot a few months ago as we're going through the sales cycle with the DoD to provide that same efficiency that we provided ourselves for other small and medium-sized businesses, and giving them AI automations and customized solutions for that, because, we saw the benefit of it massively. It gave us a fighting chance even to be able to provide something to the DoD that, massive multi-$100 million, billion-dollar companies are potentially looking at providing. And here we are, just 3 people, former NCO, former Air Force officer, and a former paramedic. We had a fighting chance in being able to provide a solution that they couldn't even. And so with my beliefs and the way I see our economy is, really the backbone of it is those small and medium-sized businesses. They're 99% of businesses is small and medium-sized. And looking at the landscape with AI and what's coming down the pipeline, and looking at the major companies like Google, Microsoft, Meta, and they're all spending billions and billions of dollars in developing AI. Well, these small businesses they're not going to stand a chance 5 years from now if they're not utilizing AI. So for us, it was kind of continuing that service. Obviously, we did our time either in the military or serving our communities, but we see it kind of extending that service and giving those small businesses a fighting chance with some of the skills and knowledge that we have to be able to continue their business and let that be the impact that we kind of help leave on the world.
So where do you find AI the most beneficial in business?
I think right now with where it's at, you're looking at like your lead generation, your customer service. Those are generally what I'm seeing is the easiest ones to implement right away into a business where they're going to see a benefit right away, right? They're not having to custom code something where it's not like a full SaaS build out platform solution where you're going to have a build out for 3-6 months or something like that. I mean, you can implement one of these in a week or a couple of days, even if you're efficient at it and you've got your market niche down to somewhere where it's pretty repetitive for you and you can really kind of corner that market. That's really where you're seeing it. But I think in the future, we're going to start seeing the agents really, really come to life, which is a little bit faster than most people were kind of predicting it to be. And I think that's where we're really going to see the biggest improvement for small businesses is with those agents.
Right.
I agree. So when talking AI, for somebody that has like little to no knowledge of it, like what do you recommend for them to get started into using AI?
I recommend everyone, it's the most known one, but it's ChatGPT. I mean, everyone talks about it, everyone's there. Like, just start small, have it write some emails for you, have it look at a document that you're reading and summarize it for you. If you're about to go read a book or you've just read a book, have it summarize that book for you and start seeing how quickly it can do some of these tasks, right? I mean, that's pretty much how most people started with it. When ChatGPT came out, everyone's like, it can write papers for me. I'm in college. I'm going to have it write my paper, right? Like that was immediately like the big concern is people were writing papers in college.
Because that mattered.
And
sorry.
Yeah, it's just one of those where I think for the average person who doesn't do a lot with technology and doesn't want to learn a lot, but wants to see where this can kind of help them. And that's the easiest one. That's something that most, especially in business, we write emails all the time. Have it write an email for you and have it start writing emails for you. You're the one sending out the email and everything, but have it do that for you. I think that's a great way for people to kind of start understanding that it really can help you, and it's not going to replace anybody. It's just going to help you become more efficient. And you can spend a little bit more time with your family or listening to the podcast or watching a movie or something like that. I think, just those little bits of time that we can start buying back.
Now, is there another platform you'd recommend, or that that's a little bit more complicated to use?
So I've started messing around. My dogs are pretty happy right now. I've been doing a lot more writing stuff with Claude. I feel like the benefits of that compared to GPT, it's a lot better. It's just the best way I can explain it. But I think when
Claude,
you really
Claude is with a K though, right?
CLAUD.
Is it with a C? Okay.
Yeah, it's Anthropic's version of ChatGPT compared to OpenAI's ChatGPT. I like it for writing a lot better. If I have like an idea or if I'm gonna make like a LinkedIn post or something like that, I'll actually write it with Claude instead of ChatGPT and go from there and build it out from there with Claude. It feels a little bit more human-like in the actual writing for me. And but I think for people, if they really want to start getting technical, I mean, you can get really technical with ChatGPT if you want to start exploring on how to build GPTs. You can just go into there, explore GPT. As long as you have the plus, you're paying for the plus, you can tell it to build you a GPT. So, for example, a GPT is like Canva. A lot of people are familiar with Canva. It's just a cheap GPT that's built on ChatGPT, but it's just focused very singularly on content creation, pamphlets and images and that sort of stuff. So I think really learning how to prompt better, and you can just stay in ChatGPT. You never actually have to go to any of the other technologies. But if you want to, and you want to start building things and getting more technical in that realm, I think Windsurf, N8N are probably the best ones to utilize for that. You can really develop some stuff in Windsurf if you're really trying to get technical with it. And pretty much the imagination is yours at that point.
Now talk about the prompt, because that's obviously extremely important no matter what you're using. And I think that's where some people might get a little bit nervous, if you will, or worried or whatever the case might be, that if the prompt isn't right, you're not going to get the input that you want. So you got to be like extremely specific in your prompt. And what are some ways that can help like newbie users of ChatGPT to have a good prompt?
My favorite one to explain to people, to kind of take them from just using it to like, hey, start using a prompt, is you got to give it a defined role. So if I'm having it write an email for like a marketing email, I'll tell it, you are the world's greatest marketing expert, are writing me an email. It's weird. People will not believe me when I say this, but the data has actually shown that when you talk nice to it and you tell it it's the greatest and the best, it actually performs better and gives you better results. I don't know why, but you just gotta be nice to it. It's weird.
Well, it's got feelings too.
But it works. It works. I've done some testing with it myself to kind of, you know, once I heard that, I was like, yeah, whatever. I was like, oh, let me go check this real quick just in case. And then, yeah, I found that I mean, image creation in DALL-E and ChatGPT, I mean, you see the people's hands are all messed up and the eyes, 3 eyes and stuff like that. I mean, just tell it give it its role. So think of like, it's this person, who's the person creating this image? Give it that role and then tell it it's great at it, or it's one of the best, or it's a industry leading expert at this, and just watch the results. And I mean, you will see a massive change. And then in the prompt, especially with like image creation, you have to be really specific kind of in your mind, kind of what you're looking for. So like the foreground, is it a specific color, or is it lighter tones, darker tones? Is it kind of chaotic? Is it calming? And really get specific with what you want. And then from there, be iterative with it. If it's not quite there, tell it to what you want to see changed and reiterate with it again and again and again. And eventually you'll get to a point where you'll have this amazing image created, or you'll have this amazing document written for you. And that's, I know it's scary at first, like, oh man, how do I prompt this? Well, just give it a role. Be as detailed as you possibly can in the beginning of what you want as that role, and then just fine tune it from there, and you'll eventually get the result you're looking for. And 9 times out of 10, I'm usually pretty shocked with how good it ends up. I'm like, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. So
yeah, I think it's definitely a learning curve on the prompt. And you'll learn real quick because you'll get like a very broad statement of whatever you need, and you're like, well, that's not what I'm looking for. And then you start to get in and play with it a little bit more and do learn it. Now on the automation side of things, because a lot of businesses don't know about automation. Jared absolutely loves automation and is teaching me a lot.
Still learning.
So automation is also something that can be very difficult to learn. It's a very useful. I think it's more useful than ChatGPT just because it's automatic. What are some advice that you have for businesses on using automation?
Advice. It's such a broad term, automation too. I think really kind of having an understanding of your systems and your processes in order to be able to look at even automating any of them. You know, one of the things that we do is we'll actually work with the business to kind of define some of their systems, because if we don't, garbage in, garbage out. And if we don't work with them on that, we're only making it harder on ourselves, and then it becomes more expensive for them because we're having to basically fine tune everything while we're building it. And it's never a good way of building a solution. You want that as clean as possible. And as, you know, it's just like the human body, right? We, you know, crap all day long and, you know, try and do a marathon the next day. It's going to be a rough day, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. But if we eat well and have a good diet, we'll have great physical outputs. It's the same thing, same kind of systems. But I think with it being so broad and really look at yourself as far as your systems, and therefore the pieces of it that can be automated, that's going to be very obvious and very glaring where the bottlenecks are, or where the manual process is that's kind of holding everything up or eating the most amount of time. And that's where they're going to find the most ROI for their investment in it, is once they see those, and then they can come to somebody like us and say, hey, here's our idea of what we want to automate or what we want AI to do for us. It makes it a lot easier for us to go in when that person has a clear picture in their head of what they're looking for. It's much easier for us to develop that. It's a lot faster, and it becomes a lot cheaper for them as well. Because yeah, That's probably my best advice when it comes to automations. Like a lot of things can be automated. Robotics will probably be one of the last things that occurs. But there's a lot of processes right now that people are doing, or filling out spreadsheets, or moving data around, or lead generation, anything like that. It can be automated. And it can be automated with the current systems that they have, the current CRMs that they're using and stuff like that. But just understand that you're going to need somebody that can customize code to work with that stuff. And it just takes a little bit extra time, a little bit extra massaging. And it is more costly doing it that way. However, you don't have to change your CRM. You don't have to go with a new solution, but you can automate some of these processes, but you really got to know the system and having a clear picture in your head what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing, is having that clear picture of what you want it to do.
Yeah. We've met some great clients so far that, they've come to us with some pretty clear pictures. It's made our lives pretty easy, and super thankful for them. And then, there's other ones that we are kind of having to develop that picture for them. And I'm also grateful for that experience as well, because it's really testing. I think that's maybe a skill set that a lot of people aren't realizing that going to become valuable with AI, is being able to have that skill set to have a conversation with someone and be able to figure out what process or what piece can they automate with AI just from that conversation, or what's the glaring piece that can be that they're going to get the biggest benefit from.
Yeah.
I agree.
So the automation and AI, they can work together, but they can also work separate. Am I right in that?
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to have one without the other.
It's still, even the automation, if you're using a computer to automate a process, it's still technically by definition AI.
Okay.
It's just not what we think of AI as today, since ChatGPT came alive, right? That's what everyone thinks AI is now. Really, it's AI is by definition artificial intelligence. So it's any intelligence that's artificial, meaning like a computer that, when you schedule an email to get sent out, it's still artificial intelligence. It's just a lot more legacy version of it compared to what we're experiencing today with, what is it, 4.0, right? That ChatGPT's on now. Like it's vastly different. You look at Tesla and its cars, like it's AI and self-driving, and we're seeing that. So most people's definition of AI is that right now, not realizing that it is some of these other things that we've been using for years now.
So you had mentioned earlier that if a company is not using AI in 5 years from now, they could either be obsolete or the business is suffering. What makes you say that?
Because businesses are starting to use it, and and the advancements of the technology is getting to a point where, like we were talking about these agents, where I think that's really going to be a massive benefit. These agents, when they actually get to a point where, I was having a conversation with a roofer, I was like, imagine you go and you give somebody a quote, and you look at their house and you say, okay, this is how much it's going to be. Would you like to go forward? And they say yes. And you can invoice them right then and there. They pay for the invoice while you're standing there, right? You're good to go, contract signed. By the time you get to your truck, all of the products you need to source for that job have been ordered for you, right? You haven't done that. You've gotten to your truck. That couple minute walk it takes, it's sourced the vendors, it's priced the best prices, and ordered the appropriate amount of shingles and tarps and nails and supply and wood that you may need for that job. It's already sourced it. It's already spoken with the vendors and ordered it for you. And they're processing that order to start shipping it for you. How many more contracts could you get on from that, right? So you got to think of that business that's doing it that way. That roofer is not spending any time having to go through and order that stuff compared to the one that is. He spends 2 days ordering that stuff. How many more proposals has the agent helped him put out compared to the one that's doing all of it manually? Sure. That's why I'm saying there's going to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be a competitive advantage that they're not going to be able to compete with, where that person's going to be pumping them out over and over and over again. And when you look at, the profitability there and the outcome, the efficiency, and we're not even talking quality of life yet that can be added to employees of a business. And so you get into
It's not even.
what's that?
I was gonna say it's not even employees; it's just individuals.
Yeah.
Like I was showing my wife the other day that she could literally have ChatGPT write her whole grocery list, meal plan it, and do everything, in 5 minutes for the month or for the
Yep.
week or whatever you want. So it can even help personal lives as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That businesses are if you're not using it, if you're not starting to look at using it, you're going to get left behind because your competitor will. And the major companies are looking at every single possible way that they can leverage AI, and they will just run you out. I mean, they will just take you over because their efficiency in being able to provide the service or the product is going to be 10 times faster than you can. And so unless you just have that human element and you've built up that relationship with the customers, it's going to be real hard to overcome that. Because I mean, look at Amazon, look at where it's gone. I mean, it took over the book industry and almost every other industry thereafter. I mean, it's as a result of technological advances, and AI is a technological advance that will make us tenfold what we can currently do.
Do you see anything to be worried about with AI in the future?
No. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for people. It will replace some jobs for people. There's no doubt about that. It will do that, which is unfortunate. But I think what we're actually going to see is people utilizing AI and leveraging it will replace the people that aren't leveraging it or using it. That's actually what's going to happen. And that's actually what you're going to see. I don't think we're anywhere near. There's a guy that I follow. His name's Simon Williamson. They had this video he put out about a year and a half ago. And this guy is, in my mind, he's one of the leading guys when it comes to AI and development there. And he explained it best in the fact that, like, we are so far from it becoming a sentient being and like taking over the world or anything like that we don't have to worry about that, not in our lifetime, and most likely not in like our children's lifetime, maybe our grandchildren, but I mean it may even be after them. But I think the biggest fear is in defense tech. If it can handle certain things there, that gets a little scary from certain countries. But there's so many guardrails that can be put in place right now, and that can prevent those things from occurring. So I don't really fear it. My fear is that the small and medium-sized businesses that make up 99% of the US economy are going to get left in the dark by not using it, or that they're behind the curve, and therefore the backbone of our economy starts to crumble, and that middle class that we rely on so much gets wiped away because those larger businesses have been able to invest billions more than the small, medium-sized businesses, and they're so far in front of everybody that they were able to leverage it way more than any of those small and medium-sized businesses could.
Yeah, and that'll be sad. I mean, I don't really know if there's really much of a middle class these days anyways.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's but yeah, do you see it creating jobs that might be lost though?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Jared's nodding his head. I completely agree with that. It's going to create industries that aren't really there right now. I think especially with this, kind of like with what we're doing as like an AI automations agency, I think you're going to see a lot more of those popping up. And it's very much like 1993 all over again with the, like the websites and people creating websites. It's kind of that all over again. I know that's going to scare some people, but it's definitely that capability, but it's a lot more accessible for more people to get in on that pie than it was when it came to building websites for companies. There's a lot more solutions that are low and no code for people, and platforms for people to build on, to build things for them, their businesses or for other businesses. So I think there's going to be a whole other industry that comes from this. And that's not even talking about the data centers that's going to be required to house all this stuff, or the manufacturing to produce the hardware for for the AI to run on, for the models to run on. There's a whole other side of this that I don't think people are really seeing, that I see kind of opening up and kind of shifting some of those jobs that it is taking. They're just going to be doing something slightly different.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Tyler, as we wrap up here, definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge of automation and AI. Well, before we close out, why don't you go ahead and give us a little promo for your company here?
Yeah. So I'm Tyler Nelson. I'm the CEO of Alsaid Technologies, one of the co-founders. We provide AI solutions for small and medium-sized businesses. We help them improve their efficiency, help them reduce costs, and help them become more profitable. I mean, that's what we try and do. That's our goal. I look forward to answering any questions anyone may have about AI or diving deeper into it. It's become kind of a passion for mine. I love it. I think we're watching probably the biggest advancement in human history with AI, and I'm hanging on for the ride.
Exactly.
Jared, you got anything to add?
No, thanks for coming on, Tyler. It was a great conversation. I always love talking AI and automation. So thanks for having the conversation with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate you guys having me on. And yeah,
Absolutely.
fun.
Appreciate your honesty and straightforwardness about it. I mean, yeah, there's going to be job loss, but there could also be job growth. So
yeah, I think it's really the only way we can approach it is honestly, and it's really the only way that people are really going to get the truth with it. And I think today's age, it's more of what anybody wants than anything. So
it's true.
I agree.
It's very true. Well, Tyler, we hope to have you on here in the future. See where your company's gone, and hopefully through the podcast. Here's the website. We'll have it tagged down below in the description as well for you guys to just be able to click it and go visit them and contact them, and hopefully they can help you automate and give you some AI tools to increase your profit. So, all right, gentlemen, with that, you guys have a wonderful weekend. And until then, we'll see y'all next time.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.